Who are you? What do you do?
So I'm Patrick Allen. I studied game design at university and made a couple of small games for game jams and stuff. Then I worked at a couple of small indie studios before doing a teaching qualification, and now I teach game design to 16 to 19-year-old students.
Okay. Do you think it's unethical to create an addictive game knowing that kids are going to be addicted to it?
I think that there's like a lot of space there. So like a lot of games and a lot of game design are kind of built around trying to get people engaged and repeating things. And obviously some game design is like literally drawing from research into gambling and stuff. And that's pushing towards a really negative end. I think that the design of the game to be addictive isn't the issue, it's the monetization. You know what I mean? Like, it's the games that are designed not just to get you playing and keep you playing, but that are designed to get money out of you on a regular basis forever. Or that, like, the way that Fortnite leverages, like, limited time things. They know most of their audience are children, and they choose to have things only available for a short amount of time, and they know that those kids will then miss out on something if they don't buy it now and stuff. I think that stuff's unethical. I don't think that the games industry or games in general are like, I don't think that they have like a kind of an intrinsic unethical thing. I think it's more on like a case-by-case basis, really.
Okay. How do you design games to ensure kids feel safe playing games targeted to an older audience?
How to ensure kids feel safe playing games that are targeted to an older audience?
Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't be playing them.
Full stop.
Functionally, so this is a grey area. I played a lot of games that were like 18 rated before I was 18. My kids are 16 and 18, but they've been playing some games that were 18 rated since they were younger. You know, they had friends who weren't allowed to play Fortnite because it had guns in it. They had friends who weren't allowed to play Roblox because their parents had heard it was full of paedophiles. Yeah. They had friends who weren't allowed to play games. And I generally, as somebody who played games, found it quite easy to judge. Because if I've played something, I know whether it's appropriate for my kids. Mm-hmm. I know my kids and I know what the game is about. I didn't let them play GTA, but not because I'm concerned about the violence so much as because I'm concerned about how misogynistic it is, I guess. Like, its depiction of women is what skeeves me out, not so much the shooting, I suppose. Yeah. But I think fundamentally, if you're designing a game that is going to have an 18 sticker on it, and you've said this is for adults, and then you've put it on a store or in a shop where it's their responsibility to make sure that only adults are playing it, you shouldn't necessarily be responsible for making sure that anything in it is appropriate for anybody who isn't 18. Like, at that point, it's the parents and the storefronts and the shops who are responsible. Like, I think that the world would be a poorer place if we weren't allowed to make art that was designed for adults. Yeah. And at that point, I kind of think, yeah, it's a reality of the world that a lot of young people play things that are age rating wise too old for them. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that the responsibility for that is on the people who are making the stuff for adults.
Yeah, you actually answered one of my questions, because it was like, do you think kids should play in any game at age 18 plus? You already just answered that one.
Well, the thing is that I played when GTA 3 came out. It was like 2000, so I was like 14. And I played that then, you know what I mean? Like, I played Vice City when it came out. I played San Andreas when it came out. I think San Andreas was the first one where I could go to the shop and buy it myself because I was 18. Yeah. Like, I played Resident Evil 2 when I was like 12, which was I think a 15, 18 rated game. Like, but I also watched Scarface when I was like 10 years old. Yeah. Like, and I don't think that any of those things have turned me into like a drooling psychopath who wants to kill people. My general feeling is, if you play a video game where you can like kill people with a plastic bag, and your first thought is, oh, I could use a plastic bag, there's already something wrong with you. Like, the game might have been the thing that like pushed you over the edge, but I think that problems with people being violent or, you know, committing crimes, I don't think you can put them at the feet of media.
Yeah.
You know, obviously I do think that the media shapes ideas that we have, but I think if you're from a healthy family and a healthy school environment where people have explained to you the world and the context of things like that, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to experience things which are supposedly too old for you, assuming that somebody who cares about you, knows you, and has your best interests at heart, is familiar with them and thinks that it's okay for you to see them.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that video games are a healthy escape for kids that are struggling in life in general?
I think it's a tough balance. So, like, I've definitely seen my kids, you know, when my son was doing his GCSEs, he was doing his GCSE exams the same week that Tears of the Kingdom came out.
So that's older?
Yeah. And my parents were a bit like, do you think it's a good idea to buy him that Zelda game the week he's doing his GCSEs? And I was like, his GCSEs are 3 years worth of work. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he's not got it now, I don't know if he's going to get that. And I think that he probably did better in his GCSEs because every night, instead of coming home and freaking out about his exams, he came home and played Zelda with me and we talked about it for a couple of hours and he had a chance to, like, cool off and decompress.
Yeah.
I do think that I've also encountered people who definitely dive too deep into playing the same game. And I had a friend who lost a job because he was playing so much Warcraft.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I do think that there's like a balance there. But again, much like with the violence, I think that at a certain level, when you look at media and things like that, and you try and diagnose society's problems and point at one thing, it's not about one thing. Like, our whole society now is designed around trying to get us to ignore the real world. Like, functionally, TikTok is a much bigger problem than video games if the problem is avoiding real life, right? But you could also spin that and say that TikTok's a much better tool than video games if you need to decompress from real life. I think that in a managed environment where the parents have what's best for the kids at heart and they're not just like trying to get rid of them, and they give them a reasonable amount of time to play games and encourage them to play games that are going to, you know, be good for them, I think it's a really healthy way for people to, and it's a form of escapism that I've used for my entire life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
this is the last question. In general, overall, are video games more beneficial or harmful to children?
I think that this is, so I've let my kids play video games pretty consistently since they were old enough to hold a controller. So my older son, I remember him trying to play games on the PS3 and his fingers couldn't reach all of the buttons because his hands were too small. So he must have been like 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah.
But I was always playing games. You know what I mean? Like, if you grew up in a household where your dad's always playing football, you're going to want to play football. If you grew up in a household where your mum's always painting, you're going to want to paint. Yeah. It's natural. And my kids grew up in a household where I was always playing video games, so they wanted to play video games. Mm-hmm. And I've fundamentally not I try and be like, you've got to get your homework done. It's time to go to college. But in their time, I've never really set any limits on how much they can play. My son played 4,000 hours of Fortnite over like 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, like, because, you know, and when it came to his birthday and he was all like, I want £100 worth of V-Bucks and nothing else, I was all like, all right, you know, it's your birthday, whatever you want. And I didn't really try and stop him at all. And what I've observed is that as he's gotten older, he has developed a really good ability to manage his own time. I didn't sit there and go, games are bad, don't play games. I was all like, play as many games as you want. And then at some point, he was all like, I feel like I've spent a lot of time playing Fortnite and it was kind of a waste of time because now I don't like Fortnite and I've got 200 quid's worth of skins and 4,000 hours on my account, but I don't want to play it anymore and it feels like I wasted that time. And I was like, well, I mean, the lesson to learn there is that, you know, maybe you should A, divide your time between multiple things, and B, try and do things with your time that you think are going to be beneficial for you long term. And, you know, now he spends more time watching movies, he writes, you know what I mean? Like, now he's kind of got he still plays a fair amount of games. You know, like, he's just finished a new game +7 on Dark Souls 3. Like, he plays a lot of games. But I let him guide me as to what the reasonable amount was, because I don't think that, like, telling people what to do is necessarily going to get to the right outcome. I think that I don't see my kids as bad people. I don't think they've got bad habits. I don't think they've got bad morals. They've both successfully passed their exams. They're both kind people who care about their friends, and they've played a lot of video games. And I think there's probably some ways in which playing cooperative games with their friends has nurtured their social skills and teamwork skills and their coordination. And I think there's probably some ways in which being locked inside their room all the time has damaged their physical abilities, right? But, like, all of those choices are choices. If they spent all their time in their room reading, if since they were little, they'd spent the same amount of time that they playing games, reading books, no one would complain about that.
Yeah.
But they still wouldn't have gone out and done the exercise, and they still wouldn't have got any sunlight or fresh air. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they'd spent all that time drawing, it'd be fine. And I just kind of think that when kids are growing up, there are like a million influences hitting them from every different direction. You got your parents, your friends, what you learn at school, media, both social media and traditional media. You got games that you play, sports that you watch, films that you see, music that you listen to. It's all kind of a big thing. And I think that incorporated into a healthy environment at a reasonable level, I don't think games are any different from if somebody decided to spend all their time, you know, whittling things out of wood or whatever old people would think was an okay thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't think my son's learnt less about music and timing and stuff from playing rhythm games than he would have if he'd played an instrument. And when I played an instrument, that was fine, because playing an instrument is like a thing that old people think it's okay to do.
Yeah.
But when my son spends the same amount of time that I would have spent playing the guitar, playing fucking Hatsune Miku Colourful Stage or whatever, that's not okay because it's a game. And I think that kind of thing is probably about people's perceptions of games who are older and don't play a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I also think it's about people not really understanding that what you can get out of games, which I think personally is a lot, obviously.
Well, that's the end of the interview. So thank you for your time.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's great.
And that's